Ladies and gentlemen, they thought you were blind, didn't they? That their little jabs, their sneaky insults, their casual disregard went unnoticed. But you saw it all. Every look, every word, every sly smirk. You counted them like clockwork. Tick, 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 tick. They didn't realize the time was running out. They believed they could keep you under their thumb, keep you small. But you were silently growing, silently gathering strength, silently remembering every slight, every betrayal, every moment of disrespect. They thought they had the upper hand, but what they failed to see was that their cruelty was fueling a fire inside you, a fire that was only waiting for the right moment to blaze. You were patient, weren't you? You were silent, absorbing each indignity, letting the weight of their actions settle deep inside your bones. They didn't know the power of silence. They didn't understand that the quietest person in the room might be the one most dangerous when the storm finally breaks. They didn't know that you were keeping track, archiving every moment where they tried to break you. They thought they could push you around, walk over you, make you feel small and insignificant, and you just take it. They thought you were weak, but they underestimated you, didn't they? Because what they failed to realize is that you were learning. Every time they stepped on you, every time they tried to diminish you, you were learning. Every sneer, every mocking tone, every time they laughed at your expense, it was all seeping into you, not like poison, but like a quiet, invisible force, molding you, shaping you, preparing you for something much bigger than they could ever imagine. It's like they planted the seeds of your power with every negative word, every dismissive action, and little by little, you began to grow. Slowly, surely, you were becoming something they never expected. Now, they'll never know how you did it. They'll never understand how you managed to pull yourself out of their dirt and rise, stronger than ever. They won't see how all their insults and their cruelty served only to build you into the person you are now. They think they won, don't they? They think they beat you down. But the truth is, they were just unknowingly pushing you toward the moment of your transformation. There is something powerful about a person who has been pushed to their limits, someone who has endured all manner of disrespect and yet still stands tall. They think they broke you, but you weren't broken. You were just gathering pieces. They didn't know that all this time, you were waiting for the moment when you would rise up, when you would let them see the strength that had been brewing silently inside of you. You weren't just surviving, you were waiting. It's always the quiet ones, isn't it? The ones who don't show their cards too early, the ones who let the world underestimate them, that end up with the last laugh. They didn't know they were fueling your fire, building the intensity of your resolve with every act of disrespect. They didn't realize that every word they threw at you was like throwing fuel into a furnace that would one day burn so bright that they wouldn't even recognize you. They tried to break you with their words. They tried to knock you down with their judgments. They thought they could break your spirit, shatter your confidence. But they didn't understand that what they were doing was exactly what you needed to find your strength. They couldn't see the bigger picture because they were too busy trying to control the narrative. They thought they were the authors of your story, but they were just characters in it, characters who didn't realize they were playing a part in your evolution. They thought they could erase you, but you were never meant to be erased. You were meant to rise from the ashes they created. Every single insult they threw at you only made you stronger. Every time they ignored you, belittled you, or tried to make you feel insignificant, it only fueled your determination to prove them wrong. They thought they could silence you with their cruelty, but you were never really silent. You were just biding your time. They thought they could hold you down, that they could keep you in your place, but places are for people who are content to stay small. You were never meant to stay small. They didn't know how long you'd been watching, how long you'd been silently remembering everything they did to you. They didn't know how every act of disrespect was a lesson, how every time they looked down on you, you were slowly learning how to stand taller. They thought they were winning, didn't they? But they were wrong, because you were learning from every single moment of their cruelty. They thought they were in control, but they were simply pushing you to the point where you would break free from their grasp. And when you did, it would be too late for them to stop you. They thought you were just a victim of their actions, didn't they? They thought they could keep you down with their belittling words, their passive-aggressive tactics, their dismissive attitudes. They thought you were too small, too quiet, too insignificant to matter. But they didn't know that your silence was the loudest thing in the room. They didn't understand that their cruelty was only making you stronger. Every time they thought they had knocked you down, you were actually building yourself up. And now, the time has come. The clock is ticking, and the moment of reckoning is here. You've remembered it all. You've taken note of every word, every insult, every time they tried to break you. And now, you're standing at the edge of something bigger. You're standing on the precipice of everything they tried to stop you from becoming. All the times they tried to control your narrative. All the times they tried to diminish you. They only created the fuel that will push you higher than they ever imagined. You've taken all their disrespect and turned it into something powerful. You've taken all their attempts to break you and used them as stepping stones to rise above them. They thought you would stay small. They thought you would stay silent. But they were wrong. And now, the time is yours. The fire inside of you is burning brighter than ever, and it's a fire they can't extinguish. The power you've quietly built is now too great for them to stop. They may have thought they were the ones with control, but they were only shaping the force that would one day overpower them. And when that moment comes, when you rise and take your place, they will realize their mistake. They'll wonder how they ever underestimated you, how they ever thought they could keep you down. But by then, it will be too late. They'll see you standing tall, stronger than they ever imagined, and they'll know that they were never in control. You were always the one in control of your destiny, even when they thought they could hold you back. So remember this: every insult, every moment of disrespect, every time they tried to tear you down was just another step in your journey. You've taken all of it, and you've turned it into something greater. You are not the victim of their actions. You are the victor, and the world will see that soon enough. In the end, they didn't break you. They didn't crush your spirit. They only made you stronger, more determined, and more unstoppable than ever before. You are not who they thought you were. You are who you were always meant to be, and now you will rise. They thought they could control you. They thought they could break your spirit with a few words, a few judgments, a few sneers. But what they failed to see was that the power to crush you was never in their hands. The power was always in yours. They simply gave you the fire you needed to fuel your strength, to keep pushing, to keep enduring. Every moment they thought you were weak, every time they thought they had caught you in a vulnerable position, you were actually silently gathering the energy for the moment of your liberation. Let me tell you something. There's a certain kind of power that comes from surviving disrespect. It's the kind of power that isn't earned in the loud, dramatic moments, but in the quiet, private spaces where no one can see you struggle, where no one can witness your pain, your frustration, your inner battles. They thought you were weak because they didn't see the war you were fighting within yourself every single day. They didn't see the way you held yourself together when you wanted to fall apart. They didn't understand the courage it took for you to keep your head up in the face of their attempts to break you. What they don't understand is that you weren't trying to survive the world as it was. You were trying to survive them, and you were doing it in silence. Your resilience was never about keeping up appearances. It was about keeping your heart intact while the world tried to crush it. Every insult, every snide remark, every time they made you feel smaller than you are, it was all a test you passed with grace and strength. They didn't realize that with each passing day, you were becoming something more powerful than they could ever imagine. There's a deep well inside of you, one that holds all the experiences of your past. And what they don't know, what they'll never understand, is that the more they try to drag you down, the more they try to silence you, the deeper you dig into that well, and the more you discover about yourself. You were never just enduring their disrespect. You were learning from it, gaining wisdom, finding your true power. Every time they belittled you, they were unknowingly teaching you lessons about your own strength, about your ability to rise above their cruelty. They thought their words were poison, but what they didn't know is that your mind is immune to their toxicity. Every insult that they thought would hurt you only served to make your resolve stronger. Every time they thought they had torn you down, you stood up a little taller, a little firmer, because you knew that you could handle whatever they threw at you. You were training yourself in the art of resilience, even if they couldn't see it. They were shaping you into something unbreakable, without even realizing it. Now they're starting to wonder, aren't they? They're starting to see something they didn't expect to see. They're starting to see a version of you they thought was impossible. They thought you would always stay small. They thought you would always stay quiet, waiting for validation, waiting for recognition. They thought they could keep you in a box, keep you trapped in their limited vision of who you were supposed to be. But the thing they didn't realize is that you were never in that box. You were simply observing, learning, and waiting for the right moment to break free. They don't know this, but all this time, you were preparing. Every time they tried to keep you small, you were expanding your mind. Every time they tried to keep you silent, you were mastering your voice. Every time they told you that you didn't matter, you were building your own sense of worth. They thought they were breaking you, but what they were really doing was pushing you to become everything you were always meant to be. They just couldn't see it. They were blind to your potential. And when the moment finally comes, when the time finally arrives for you to step into the fullness of who you are, they will be left in shock. They will look at you and wonder how they never saw it coming, how they never realized that the very person they tried to diminish was the one who was silently growing into something more powerful, more capable, more unstoppable than they ever imagined. They'll be left in disbelief as they watch you rise. They'll wonder how you did it. They'll wonder where you found the strength to keep going. And when you look back at them, when you look back at the people who tried to hold you down, the people who mocked you, dismissed you, belittled you, you won't be angry. You won't be vengeful. You'll simply look at them and know that they had no idea who they were dealing with. You'll know that their disrespect was never a reflection of you. It was always a reflection of them. They were the ones who couldn't see your worth. They were the ones who couldn't see your potential. They were the ones who were too small to understand the power that was silently building inside you. And now, as you rise, you won't need to say a word. Your actions will speak louder than any insult ever could. The person they tried to break will be the one standing on top, looking down at them and silently remembering how far you've come. And when you rise, you won't rise in the way they expect. You won't rise with the anger and bitterness they may have imagined. You will rise with a quiet strength that is undeniable, a power that cannot be ignored. Your success will be the ultimate revenge, not because you set out to prove them wrong, but because you always knew who you were, even when they didn't. Your victory will be a testament to your resilience, your strength, your ability to endure and rise above. Every time they thought you were too quiet, too meek, too broken to succeed, you were silently gathering everything you needed to become the person you were destined to be. Every time they tried to push you down, you were getting stronger, sharper, more focused. They didn't know that their attempts to control you, to belittle you, were the very thing that fueled your growth. They didn't realize that in their ignorance, they were only contributing to your rise. The beauty of your journey is that it's been yours all along. You've been writing your story every single day, and they had no idea. They thought they were the ones in control, the ones who could dictate your path. But in reality, you've always had the pen in your hand. They were just characters in your story. And the story you're telling now is one of resilience, strength, and undeniable power. And now that you've found your voice, now that you've found your strength, now that you've risen from the ashes they tried to bury you under, there's nothing that can stop you. The world is yours for the taking. You've learned the most important lesson of all, that no matter what anyone says, no matter how hard they try to break you, you have the power to rise. And you will rise again and again until they see you for who you truly are. The time is now. The time is yours. And when you look back at the people who tried to keep you small, you'll simply smile. You'll know that their disrespect was the fuel that powered your rise. And in the end, you will stand tall, unshaken, and stronger than they could have ever imagined. And when you finally achieve your greatness, when you finally stand in the place you were always meant to stand, you'll remember the ones who tried to bring you down. You won't need to say a word. They'll see it in your eyes. They'll see it in the way you carry yourself, the way you've transformed into the person they thought you could never be. And they'll know they were wrong. They never saw the moment coming, did they? They thought that because they could break you down with a glance, a word, or a small jab, that they had won. They thought that their small acts of cruelty and disrespect were enough to shake you to your core. But they were wrong. What they failed to see was that they were building the foundation for your success. With every insult, they helped create the blueprint of your strength. With every little hurt, every sneering glance, they were making you harder to break, stronger than you had ever been before. And they'll never know that their cruelty is the very thing that made you who you are today. They'll never know that they were creating their own downfall with every attempt to put you down. They thought they could diminish you by trying to make you small, trying to isolate you, trying to break your spirit. But what they failed to understand is that true power doesn't come from the easy victories. True power doesn't come from the people who tear others down to build themselves up. It doesn't come from the ones who try to manipulate, deceive, or control. True power comes from those who endure, those who rise despite the odds, and those who carry the weight of every insult and still stand tall. That is where your strength has always been, in your ability to endure what they thought would break you and turn it into something more beautiful, more resilient. You have been through hell, haven't you? Maybe you've faced rejection. Maybe you've had your dreams torn apart. Maybe you've watched others get the recognition you deserved. Maybe you've had people question your worth, your intelligence, or your ability to succeed. Maybe you've stood in a room full of people who couldn't see your potential, couldn't see your worth. But you didn't crumble. You didn't fall apart. You didn't give up. And that's the part they don't understand. They thought that their words could shatter you. They didn't realize that every time they threw something your way, you were quietly getting stronger. Every insult, every belittlement was like the weight being added to a sword that would soon be sharpened into an unstoppable force. Think about it. They underestimated you because they couldn't see the quiet strength within you. They mistook your silence for weakness. They saw your calm demeanor and thought it meant you were complacent, that you would just let things slide, let people walk all over you. But what they didn't see was the fire burning inside, the relentless drive to prove them wrong, the fierce will that kept you going even when they thought you were about to fall. They thought you would bend, they thought you would break, but all they did was teach you how to stand taller and how to never let anyone, no matter what they say, make you doubt who you are. They didn't know that you were silently recording every moment of disrespect, every time they tried to make you feel small, every time they disregarded your worth. They didn't know that each of those moments was feeding your resolve, creating a drive in you that would never be extinguished. You weren't reacting. You weren't showing them your hand because you were too busy learning, growing, planning for the moment when you would stand up and show them who you really are. They were too busy laughing at you, belittling you, and underestimating you to realize that you were becoming stronger with every single day. And now, the moment has arrived, the moment they thought would never come. The moment you've been quietly waiting for, biding your time, gathering your strength, is now here. They didn't know the depth of your patience, did they? They didn't know that you could take the blows they threw at you without even flinching, without showing a crack in your armor. But that's the secret of your strength. You are not easily broken, not by words, not by actions, not by the cruelty of others. You are forged in silence. You are shaped by your ability to endure. Your strength comes from the quiet moments, the moments where you silently reflected on what was happening to you, and used that pain, that rejection, that disrespect as fuel for your own growth. You've been underestimated, ignored, and cast aside for too long. But now, when you step into your full power, when you finally show the world who you really are, they'll see that all their attempts to hold you down, to make you feel less than, have only made you more powerful. They tried to keep you in a box, tried to make you fit into a mold, but what they didn't realize is that you were never meant to be contained. You were never meant to be just another ordinary person. You were meant to be extraordinary, and all the disrespect they threw your way only helped you find your way to greatness. Now, when you rise, and you will rise, they won't be able to ignore you. They won't be able to silence you, and they won't be able to take credit for the greatness you achieve. You will be unstoppable because you've already survived their attempts to break you. You've already conquered the hardest part, which was finding the strength to rise above everything they did to keep you small. And now, when you rise, it will be on your terms. It will be because you were strong enough to take everything they threw at you and turn it into something beautiful. You will rise because you knew, deep down, that you were always capable of more than they could ever imagine. And when you do rise, they will look at you and wonder how they didn't see it before. They will wonder how they ever thought they could break you. They will wonder how they ever underestimated you. And when that moment comes, when they finally see you for who you truly are, when they finally recognize the power you have always carried within you, they'll be left speechless. They'll be left wondering where they went wrong, wondering how they couldn't see the potential they were blind to. And the sad truth is, they will never fully understand that they were the ones who built you. They will never understand that the very people who tried to bring you down were the ones who unknowingly made you who you are today. Let them wonder. Let them be left in confusion. It doesn't matter anymore, because now you know who you are. You've realized your own worth, and when the world sees your greatness, they'll finally understand what they failed to see all along. They'll see that you were never weak, you were never small, you were simply waiting for the right moment, waiting for the right time to step into your power. And when you do, there will be no stopping you. What they didn't know, what they could never have imagined, is that every attempt to break you was only serving to push you forward. Every insult was sharpening your resolve. Every time they tried to make you feel insignificant, you were quietly strengthening yourself for the moment when you would rise. And now, that moment has arrived. You've learned, you've grown, and you've become the person they always feared you could be, the person they tried so hard to keep down. But their fear of your power will only serve to show you how right you were all along. They didn't understand that your silence was never weakness. It was strength. It was patience. It was endurance. And now, when you step into the light, when you claim what is rightfully yours, they will see it for the first time. They will understand that they were never your enemy. They were merely the fuel that kept your fire burning. And now, they'll watch as you take the world by storm. The time has come. You are ready. You are strong. You are everything they never thought you could be. And now you will rise. You will rise because you've been through hell and come out stronger. You will rise because they thought they could break you, but instead, they made you unstoppable. And when you rise, you will rise on your terms, with your own strength, and the world will see just how powerful you really are. You may have thought that they were the ones in control, but the truth is, you've always been the one who held the power. Every insult, every slight, every moment of disrespect has made you stronger, more resilient, and more determined. And now, when the time comes for you to rise, there will be no stopping you. You will rise because you've always had the strength inside of you. And when you do, the world will know the truth. You were never weak. You were always destined for greatness. And now, they will see you for who you truly are.